We're a bit early.
Hello, hi, welcome. Obviously, I'll be a bit early. I'm David Wilson, and this is
Rob Harrison, both from Glued. Today, we're talking about awards, and I suppose slightly controversially, we're asking what's the point of them? And I suppose that probably comes from a bit of lag criticism we've got about it, lag cynicism we've got about it. Been going sort of 15 years and never really actively chased after awards ourselves, but have done this year and did so a bit blindly, and I think have probably seen benefits from it that we really didn't expect. So we were just going to try and talk around that cynicism and perhaps try and argue with it a bit.
and also we've then got a question that we've been asked that we'll respond to later.
Yes, that's thanks to Sarah Bassett from the Ulster Chamber of Commerce and Trade. The first thing I suppose is that on the surface of it, I think the reason why we didn't go in for awards was we felt it was people just boasting, people massaging their own egos. And I think, David, you had a...
Yeah, and I think for me, I was very cynical of it, and I think perhaps it was because either you weren't proud of your own, of what you'd achieved, and you were looking at just kind of cosmetically, let's say, for design, you were looking at other people and going, well, we're not as good as them, or whatever. But actually, I then realised that if you're putting in for the right sort of awards in the right context, so maybe it's in an industry where you work or in a place where you work, then you know the impacts that you've had for your own clients, and therefore you can be proud. It is appropriate to go for those awards.
And I think from two perspectives, we're trying to look at this in a different way. One is the way that we see our clients benefiting from it, from doing awards, and the second is the way we see ourselves benefiting from it now that we've bothered to engage with them. And I think the first one actually is to do with the application side of things. That when you're applying to win an award, assuming you haven't been nominated by somebody else, but when you're applying, you obviously have to put together a case study of some sort. And the work that you examine and re-examine that you've done in the past actually helps you realise the difference you made to the people who you did that work for. And that starts to build your own belief in what you do and your own pride in what you do.
And it's also good if you've got a team of people, it's obviously going to really help morale in that context.
And let's say you make your application and okay, sometimes you're not going to hear anything, you won't get anywhere, but sometimes you may get nominated. And even that stage, you can make hay out of. There's an opportunity at that stage to start to generate publicity from it, to say that you're, and we've been doing that ourselves.
A little bit, yeah. Probably could do a bit more.
Yes. So we're fortunate enough to be nominated for the Leamington Business Awards and also for a Coventry Telegraph Award. So we've been trying to generate publicity about that. But equally, the fact that we got those nominations has made us feel proud in what we do, that somebody out there actually believes what we're delivering is of worth and is willing to consider us.
And we often say to our own clients that there's something unique and special about every organisation, and it's very easy when you're doing it on a day-to-day basis to actually forget those things. So actually doing an award is a useful way of kind of looking back at actually what you've done and actually the impacts that you've had. And we would also say that doing the promotion of it and talking about that is not kind of just boasting. It's actually part of your marketing mix. It's part of actually what you should be doing, because it's getting people to go, oh, actually, well, they've helped these organisations. So case study stuff is always really important.
So you've got publicity and pride. Then the other element to it is that if you're using it as publicity and people are engaging with the publicity about you being nominated for this award, plainly it's going to build your credibility with potential customers. And also the same mechanism is going to raise your awareness amongst your potential customers.
And I would say, in terms of applying for things, I would actually say really think about the context of those awards. So if they are an awards that's in the right area for you or in the right kind of industry, are your clients interested in them? Do your clients kind of care? If it's something that you're proud of what you've done and you want to kind of congratulate your team by applying for it, then that's an appropriate thing. But if it's purely to do with your kind of wanting to promote your own services, then some awards, your clients may not even be aware of. Therefore, is it important to go for those? I think that was where my cynicism used to come from.
So because we've identified our target audience, our target customers, our ideal customers, as ones that are within a 1 hour drive time of Leamington Spa, and they're in the small and medium-sized business community, and they tend to be business owners. You can see how something like the Leamington Business Awards and the Coventry Evening Telegraph Awards could well be appropriate arenas in which for us to be seen.
Whereas if we'd applied for some design industry award, then probably our clients wouldn't be that interested in that. It might be an ego boost for us, but not necessarily something that our targets would care about particularly.
And we were debating that beforehand, thanks to the input of our social media strategist Claire from Loxley, those industry awards, they really do on the surface of it look like ego massaging, don't they? Mm. But you saw it in a different light.
Did I? Now, well, it is a team building thing. So, if you've got a large bunch of, say, I'm just looking at it from a creative standpoint, then obviously the industry is very competitive. And if you can get people to kind of realise their success, then that's probably good for your own organisational kind of morale and culture. And so there is actually a good reason to do something. It's not something I'd really thought about in the past, probably because we're a small business. But if you've got teams of people, it might really help with that internal stuff.
And prompting David on the other side of it,
I actually forgotten
that he mentioned is that in the higher profile, blue chip type organisations, where they may even be looking at, for instance, design businesses as potential suppliers, they could well be looking at the awards that are given by those peer groups as a basis on which to select potential suppliers.
I'd totally forgotten about that. It's an excellent.
So there is credibility there as well. I mean, of course, some people do go into it for ego massaging.
Yeah, that's.
And some people do go into it for the final point that I mentioned here, which is as a jolly, because if even as a nominee, if you can go out for an evening and celebrate the fact of being a nominee, it's a great jolly. It's a great way of recognising your team, I suppose.
And also, it could be a way of actually taking clients to thank them for working with you. I mean, that's another thing to consider.
So we've kind of been talking in the context of just as a nominee here. So imagine the benefits. If you were to win, the benefits in terms of publicity, in terms of organisational pride, in terms of the perceived credibility you have, in terms of the awareness you get, and the recognition that you're able to give your team if you win as well as nominated. So there's a layer of opportunities.
Yeah, and from kind of a brand kind of trusting kind of side, it's going to do great things to actually say, well, experts in that field have looked at what you've done and actually said, yes, this organisation is of a quality, and that's a great thing for kind of building your own kind of brand, kind of awareness and credibility.
So I've exhausted my point.
I think we should
turn to the question that Sarah Bassett raised, which is about whether I guess we had any tips about applying.
Yeah.
And
promoting places as well as businesses, because it was a business. Well, we won't go into the details, but
so David's touched on this already, but in the process of applying, you get that opportunity to realise the special things you do on a day-to-day basis that have become ordinary to you, and in applying you have to go through a sort of an external examination of what you're doing in order to present it to award judges. And that is an excellent opportunity, I think, to realise that what you're doing day to day is not ordinary, but is actually extraordinary.
And there was an example of Coventry 2021. Now, that's not necessarily an award, but it's there's an interesting, having lived in Coventry for 20 odd years, there's already a slight, now that the city has won that award, if you like, there's a change of story in that people who live in the city are actually now starting to change their conversation from perhaps one of a negative thing about them in Coventry to being proud of the city, the place where they live. So you can take some things out from that and go, well, if you're applying for any sort of award to do with location, think of the things it's going to help you with. Just applying for it, it's bringing people together, asking people why they think something is good or bad, involving them. You know, going out onto the street and asking people to do a video of, you know, why do I love this location or why do I go here? It'll reveal some really rich stuff.
And then moving on to, let's say one's completed the award. Some of them are form-based and online form-based, which doesn't give a lot of opportunity to show off, if you like. But more often than not, there is an opportunity to provide a separate document or file, and therein lies the opportunity to show off. Now, I've done some judging of some college marketing awards in the past, and I know that as a judge, it is difficult to separate some of the nominees because they're very, they're usually pretty high quality. They're usually on things that can be things that can be measured, and therefore there's sometimes just a hair's breadth between them. And it did make a difference if the award was presented in a way, or the nomination was presented in a way that it was accessible, easy to read, and relatively quick to read. Because if you're reading through 35 nominations, it's a real chore. No matter how marvellous the results are, it's a real chore. We also know that also the style in which they're presented can be helpful. So if you have an opportunity to design up your award nomination, we think that's an opportunity not to be missed to help your award stand out.
I would also say don't make any assumptions. Don't make any assumptions about what your audience or judges will or won't know about you. It's the same thing of, you can just assume something, but actually you might need to make the point that actually you're unique in this way. So it's a real important thing to actually look carefully at what you're saying. Maybe the ideal thing is get somebody who doesn't know anything about what you're doing to actually read the submission. Does it make sense to them?
And then the other tip that came to mind was this notion that, okay, you may still be waiting to find out if you won an award, but if you've been nominated, don't forget about the opportunity to make hay out of that prior to the announcement of winners. You can benefit, not as much perhaps, but you can certainly benefit from the pride, credibility, awareness that you can generate from advertising the nomination.
And I would also say, actually, look at if you can find out who the other people are nominated, is actually celebrate them as well. Because actually looking at your competitors and going, well, actually they're doing a really good job too, but so are we. You're all unique, and actually that kind of collective celebration is a really good thing. Might sound a bit weird, but this is a kind of don't be fearful of your competitors, because they'll all be different.
I'd really finished my feedback on Sarah's question. I don't know whether you had anything.
I really do think it's, if you're talking about going back to the question about talking about a location, do carefully think about the context of how it can bring people together. That's something I would really say, because in the mention of Coventry that I mentioned earlier, there really is this kind of people starting to get excited about something. And I know an award is perhaps more of a kind of a single item, but it might help to kind of cement what you're trying to achieve as an organisation.
So it's kind of like saying we're already coming together, but dear award judge, imagine the impact that winning the award would have on this area.
Yes,
It'll cement everything that's going on. It'll help us progress at a faster rate. It'll make a real difference to the area where it may not make as much of a difference to competing areas.
Yeah, and I think often that's those sorts of things are the things that often means that people win things, because we're actually talking about the bigger context of it.
Yeah, what's going to happen after the award, and that actually for an award is a brilliant thing if they can have an impact beyond the actual nomination of the award. Yeah. So I think that's I hope that's been of some help. Thank you very much. See you soon. And no doubt in due course we will post the topic for our next Facebook Live.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.